Thank you, Victoria. Thank you for that warm introduction and welcome. Wonderful to be here. I didn't realize this was such a big event, but it is big and energetic and full of vibrancy in the room, and really happy to be a part of this crowd as one of my first public engagements as Asia Society's 9th president. Indeed, it's such a pleasure to welcome all of you to Asia Society's 16th annual Global Talent Symposium. It's the 16th, but certainly my first, and certainly I hope not to be the last. I'll be coming back for many more in the years to come. But Victoria has already shared with you the basic ambition of this annual forum, so I will not repeat that. Let me just thank the wonderful speakers that we have lined up for the day's events, Mr. Perry Jung, Erica Irish-Brown, and many other speakers, moderators who have come to share their wisdom and insights with all of us. The Global Talent Symposium lies squarely within the mission of Asia Society at large. Our work is to bring us closer to Asia and, of course, Asia to us across policy, business, sustainability, education, arts, and culture. And while we are headquartered here in New York City, we have 16 centers across the United States, Asia, and Europe, making us an institution with global reach and impact. And for nearly 7 decades, Asia Society has been hosting presidents and prime ministers, cabinet ministers, CEOs, and heads of international organizations. We have been the platform for world leaders at the highest levels to share their ideas and visions about Asia and the world, to build key relationships, and to strengthen the drivers for human dignity, peace, and prosperity. And at a time of deepening divides and rising tension among the key players in the region and beyond, and we know who they are, Asia Society's mission to build bridges is more important than ever before. I don't think we have any presidents and prime ministers with us here today, but I believe today's symposium is equally important to Asia Society's mandate. By inculcating the spirit of openness and inclusivity among the young talents gathered here, we hope to help you to become the movers and shakers toward a more peaceful and prosperous Asia and the world. Before joining Asia Society, I worked for 35 years as a public servant in public service, both in my own country, Korea, and at the United Nations. And that was both in highly structured and hierarchical organizations. And I find Asia Society to be very different, but equally, if not more, motivating and empowering. It is full of passionate, dedicated, and creative staff, and I'm fortunate and grateful to be leading such an exceptional team. And that is the whole purpose of workplaces, small and large, to build teams and to bring out the best in its people. And despite the economic and political environments, the changing economic and political environments, workplaces and professional communities that enable the human potential to be fully unlocked is vital to the success of peoples and countries. So, in closing, I do hope that the discussions and engagements today will go a long way in bringing out the best in each and every one of the participants today in this symposium. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kang, for that incredible speech. Building bridges, that's what we're here for, right, tonight. How are you all this morning? Woo, that's right, yes, it's a beautiful day, especially for me when I can get out of bed and share my history as an Asian American actor in Hollywood for all of you here today. Excuse me, I've been an actor for 30 years. Some of you might recognize me as Father June in Warrior on Netflix. Oh, you've seen it. Warrior is a show written by Bruce Lee originally 50 years ago. Yes, 50 years ago. It took 50 years with the help of Shannon Lee, his daughter, to convince Hollywood that Asians can lead a TV series. In 1991, when I first started acting, there was nothing for me, a young Chinese American man, except for that once-a-year episode on Law and Order about Chinatown. Yeah, you've seen it, right? Gangs, sex trade, and I couldn't even book that role. But something happened last year that I thought I would never see in my lifetime. We won an Oscar. That's right, Michelle Yeoh, Ke-Huy Quan, Everywhere All at Once. We won multiple Oscars. When Michelle Yeoh held up that Oscar and she looked in the camera and she said, "This is for all those little boys and girls who look like me watching tonight. Let this be a beacon of hope." I was not a little boy, but I saw that beacon of hope. In our industry, the first time I heard of any DEI initiative was in 1986, when our Actors Equity, the Stage Actors Union in New York City, combined forces with the non-traditional casting program, and they did researches across theaters across America. And what they found was 90% of the professional theater plays that were offered were performed by all white casts, 90%. That discovery led to symposiums, much like here today, what we have here today in Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York City, where actors, BIPOC, women, were asking, can we audition for roles that are not written for white people? Casting directors got on there and said, working with playwrights to cast plays and films, and said, can we cast this adjacent character, Mr. Smith, the neighbor? Can we cast him as Black Mr. Smith? Or how about if we change the name to Mrs. Hernandez? So around 1995, I started to see casting calls that publicly stated this role is open to any ethnicity. I saw the clouds part, the angels sang. This was my affirmative action moment. But it was only the beginning. I was cast in a comedy TV show. And comedy is a little dangerous, right? It could be funny or it could be offensive. So I looked at the role. This Chinese character was borderline funny and offensive. And I thought, should I take this role? But if I'm gonna walk the talk, I better take this role, because I always say we actors have power on the set. And I want to be the change that I see. So I took that role. And on the day of filming, after a couple of takes, the director leans in and says, "That's great, Perry, but can you do it more Chinese? More Chinese." And I went, and then he demonstrated with a Japanese American accent. And I went, well, I smiled as I cringed inside. "I get you, how about this?" And I mustered up the deepest Southern accent I could do and said, "How about this?" All those extras around me exploded in laughter. And extras are supposed to be quiet, right? They're just watching the lead actor's film. But when their laughter just kind of, told him what was, educated him. And, to his credit, directors, they're not necessarily the bad guy. They just want to produce material so that the editor can edit for the suits who make the calls, right? And every time I go on a set, I want to make sure the director knows I'm working with him or her, and we want to create something good. We want a good product, because a good product, a good scene makes us all look good. If we offer an oppressive, old stereotype, that makes us all look bad. So what I learned from that once-a-year episode is that we need to be our storytellers. We need to own our narrative. It might seem a little tiring, constantly educating your coworkers, politely alerting them to that something might be offensive. But that's easy compared to what my predecessors had to go through in old Hollywood, right? Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's, Katharine Hepburn in The Good Earth, Christopher Lee in The Evil Fu Manchu. They just had to put tape on their eyelids and they got our jobs. That's not okay today, right? Or is it? I mean, just a few years ago, Scarlett Johansson, Tilda Swinton were called out for the same thing, whitewashing Asian characters in Hollywood movies. Their colleagues posted on social media defending them. It should be okay for them to exercise their artistic freedom. These actors should be able to play other races. All right, it's okay for you to exercise your creative freedom when it's continuously oppressing mine. So, Michelle Yeoh's Oscar, her win, was not alone. I mean, granted, she had all the talent, charisma, and history, but she also had people behind her. She had a team of dedicated writers, producers, and directors who knew Hollywood's industry of historically shaping our narrative. And they also, I mean, Hollywood's just a mirror of society, right? So what was happening at that moment was, while they were filming everything all at once, was the pandemic. The rise of anti-Asian hate. We saw so easily the power of one man, former President Trump, and his tweets, how we could change our narrative from being the model minority to public enemy number one, from patting our backs, saying great assimilation, yeah, of our white values, to being spat on, kicked on the ground, and murdered. I saw Asian American history flash through my eyes. The Anti-Asian Exclusion Act of 1882 that prevented Chinese from immigrating into the country until 1945. The Executive Order 9066 that imprisoned 120,000 Japanese Americans. And right in front of me today, not that word, but good. Thank you, the 3Ds. Divisive rhetoric surrounding border control. So it's up to us to take control of our narrative. There's a line from one of Bruce Lee's most famous, iconic movies, Enter the Dragon. There's a scene where he's teaching his young student how to win over an opponent. And he says, don't think, feel. It's like your finger pointing to the moon. Do not stare at the finger or you will miss all the heavenly glory. When I stare at my finger, I see my work, my career. All that heavenly glory out there is my community, my family. And I say family in the sense of Bruce Lee's quote, under the skies, under the heaven, there is but one family. I stand on the shoulders of my ancestors who did the hard work. They were the ones that faced the high-pressured water hoses. They were the ones that faced the fangs of police attack dogs. They did the hard work. They were brave, visionary, and I'm constantly surprised at how they were able to cultivate love amidst that violence, cultivate love for their family and communities. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, believe it or not, preached love. Some of the greatest Black songwriters of the 60s, 70s sang songs, heartfelt songs about family and love and unity. Sly and the Family Stone, the singer, Sylvester Stewart, said, don't hate the black, don't hate the white. If you got bitten, hate the bite. We can do this together. Thank you.